The great breakthrough of the original Rio conference was to challenge the international community to put people at the centre of economic growth, to stop thinking about development as just a process of creating wealth, and to think about what was happening to people. And in many ways we face exactly the same challenge today, 20 years on. One of the single greatest challenges facing us as an international community today is rapid urbanisation. We know that most of the population growth around the world over the next 2 decades is going to happen in urban centres.
When we talk about the urban majority in our cities, that majority includes the urban poor. In this city of Mumbai today, more than 54% of its population live in slums.
When children are killed, whether it's the lack of road safety or the lack of access to clean water, it devastates communities and it perpetuates the cycle of poverty. And certainly as poor communities face the threat of even greater and greater congestion, being forced right to the sides of roads where huts are sometimes put up with squatters, children dashing through traffic to get to school, and no doubt pressures continuing through the rise of vehicle traffic as part of economic development. We better pay attention to this.
As we visited communities in different parts of the world, in urban slums in Nairobi, in slums here in Mumbai, in South Africa, one of the things that really strikes you when you talk to the parents of children in these slums, and you talk to children themselves, that they have this real drive to get an education. And that's for a very simple reason, which is that they see learning and school as an exit route from the poverty that they live in. They know that if only they can get into school, through school, pass their exams, they'll have a chance of a future that was denied their parents. Education is one of the ways in which poor families can break this transmission line of poverty across generations. And yet, in each case, when we've spoken to these families, their great fear is that in order to get to school, children often have to negotiate this appalling school run of crossing 2-lane highways, 3-lane highways, in some cases 4-lane highways.
डर तो लगते हैं ना, अभी सब ट्रैफिक भी ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है तो कुछ एक्सीडेंट का भी डर लगता है। ऐसा बहुत हो गया में सामने भी हो गया हमारे। हम सुबह जाते हैं काम पे तो बहुत लोगों को ऐसा देखा है, कोई ट्रक उड़ा के जाता है, कोई कुछ क्या होता है। चिंता तो होता है बच्चों लोग का भी, मम्मी इनके साथ में जाके बच्चों लोग को लाती है और छोड़ती है, बस उनका काम तो है।
There are literally billions of people living like this and their voices have never been heard. It's about time they were heard, whether it's to do with the housing, whether it's to do with road safety, whether it's to do with infrastructure. They need to be heard. With the Rio conference coming up, it's an ideal opportunity for people like this, situations like this, places like this, to come onto the map of development. Most of the people who suffer road accidents are the poor, to put it very bluntly.
आमच्यावर येल आले तशी दुसऱ्यावर येऊ नये, दुसऱ्याचा असा अपघात होऊ नये, रस्त्याचा बंदोबस्त सरकारने काहीतरी रस्त्याचा बंदोबस्त केला पाहिजे, गाड्या व्यवस्थित रस्त्याला चालल्या पाहिजे.
I think what we've seen over the past decade is a step back, that the momentum that was created by Rio wasn't carried forward. I think the 20th anniversary of the Rio Summit is a real opportunity to restore the momentum.
Suddenly concern about road safety is becoming something important. Why didn't we think about all that before? I am myself convinced, and probably all the others are going to be convinced, because it's so powerful, so true, so important. So I think it's going to make a difference this time, yes. I think it's going to be more central, as much as we can put it in the agenda of Rio Plus 20.
Because what you see here is a lack of planning, a lack of forethought, which exposes often the most vulnerable, those who are not sitting in the cars, but those who have to walk alongside the road, who are on bicycles, basically exposing them to the highest risk of fatalities in terms of road accidents.
What do you think we really need to do to get this onto the international agenda and to have road safety registered as a crisis in development, as a crisis for the poor?
Those with the power to ask the right questions in government are those best positioned to respond to what is an increasingly public outcry also, that we are losing too many people on the roads of this world, and unnecessarily so. The issue of road safety, I think, is the most practical and pragmatic way forward to protect people from being affected by what is meant to be progress, but for many is turning out to be a death trap.
Now, if you put these two things together, an expansion of the number of vehicles on our roads and existing death rates, that is really a prescription for both an ecological disaster and a human development tragedy. It's an avoidable tragedy, but we need to start preventing that tragedy right now, and the 20th anniversary of the Rio Conference is the place to start.